What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here today. If you don't know me yet, I'm Daryl Vaughn, Colorado Realtor, and this is my channel, Living in Colorado. Obviously, by the name of the title, we talk a lot about life in Colorado, talk a lot about Denver because that's where I live, and we talk a lot about real estate because that's what I do. Today, we are going to talk about HOAs. Some people love them, a lot of people hate them, but we're going to go over the pros and cons of HOA. HOA stands for Homeowners Association. This is an association led by board members that are democratically elected to their positions, and it is made up of homeowners. And decisions made by the association are democratic, voted on, and they have meetings. So the idea is that the whole community does participate in the decisions made by a homeowners association. So what's the purpose of an HOA? Well, ultimately the purpose of an HOA is to protect property values. It's also to make sure that the community lived in is desirable to everybody. It is the goal of an HOA to uphold certain community standards that uphold the vision of a well-kept and organized community that everybody enjoys living in. Now, in the distant past, at the very beginning of home ownership, when one house was a half a mile from another, the behaviors of each individual didn't really affect the lives of others. But now, since we live in communities and we're in such close proximity to one another, obviously the way we choose to live our lives does have impacts, whether positive or negative, on other people. So HOAs had to be formed in order to regulate the behaviors of individuals within a community. Now, unfortunately, just like the federal, state, and local governments, we have to regulate the behaviors of other people. Apparently, we no longer have these common unspoken values which we all adhere to, so someone has to step in and tell us what's ultimately accepted and what's not within certain communities. Now let's dive into the pros and cons of HOAs. Let's talk about the bad stuff first. HOAs cost money. That's right. So whatever your mortgage payment is, you can add anywhere from a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 depending on what your HOA provides to you. Now, the fees can certainly vary because you have some bare bones services that will only take care of structural and grounds maintenance, snow removal, sewer and trash, things like that. But then you have HOAs that have gym, pools, sauna, security, insurance, a concierge, and all kinds of services and amenities. And generally, based on the package of services and amenities you get, that will certainly be reflected in how expensive your HOA dues are going to be. So be sure that when you're purchasing a property that has a homeowners association, you are sure to check how much that's going to cost annually and monthly, so that you know that that's going to be something manageable for you and your budget. All right, next, what we call cookie cutter living. In an HOA, certain aesthetic community standards must be upheld. This is based on a real estate principle called the principle of conformity. So if you're an eccentric, creative person who wants to paint their house lime green with pink polka dots and have weird metal gnome statues that are basically just junk welded together, and a yard full of cactus, you may want to double check with your HOA as to whether or not that's allowed, because typically HOAs want all the properties looking more or less the same. And so something to keep in mind is that if you want to be creative with the look of your home and you have an HOA, be sure to check with what your creative side So be sure to check with your HOA about what is allowed and not allowed as far as your own expression when it comes to the property you'll be owning. All right, and another thing people really don't like about HOAs is their overreach. HOAs a lot of times dictate things like loud music, whether or not you can be working on old cars in your driveway. In some cases, they have noise curfews and things like that, where people think it's kind of encroaching a bit on their freedoms. Many people have a lot of concern about HOAs overextending their authority. So before purchasing a property that has an HOA, I would make sure that you're in agreement with the behaviors they allow and don't allow. Another thing a lot of people don't like about HOAs is that they do restrict income generating activities. So, for example, say you have a single family home with no HOA and you had a side hustle fixing motorcycles in your garage. Well, there's a very good possibility that if you have a HOA, that sort of activity won't be allowed. In addition, HOAs often restrict the potential for rental income in your property. So, for example, some HOAs don't allow you to Airbnb your property unless it's a primary residence. Some have minimum lease terms of 3 months. Some have minimum lease terms of 6 months. So an HOA can hinder your ability to generate income. So you do want to make sure that if you're anticipating, buying a small condo that has an HOA and you plan on renting that out, you're going to want to check if that's allowed by the HOA. So those are about all the negatives I can think of when it comes to HOAs. If you have anything else, please feel free to drop me a comment. Tell us about your experience with HOAs, how you feel about them. I know this is a controversial subject, so there's bound to be some opinions out there. I'd love to hear yours. Now, let's move on to the positives of HOAs. You get amenities and services. Sometimes HOAs include some pretty cool things like insurance, pools, gyms, hot tubs, concierge. They take care of all the structural and exterior maintenance. They do landscaping, gardening, all these kinds of things which are, very beneficial. Snow removal, a lot of people in Denver, Colorado really hate doing that. But it's nice that you have an HOA that will pay so your car can get out of the driveway. So that's one big benefit of HOAs, is that they have, depending generally on how much you pay for the HOA, they've got a good amount of services that really benefit the homeowners. And next, HOAs are often nice and tidy. Of course, there's some variation in what HOAs tolerate, but for the most part, the goal of an HOA is to keep a community nice, safe, clean, beautiful, and enjoyable. So it is the goal of the HOA to do all these things. Now, I understand that HOAs can vary with, whether or not they're going to allow somebody to, park rusty cars in their garage or driveway, if they're going to allow people to have, trash on their stoop and things like this. But generally speaking, HOAs, their objective is to create a better environment for everybody. So this is a benefit, is that generally communities in an HOA are a well-oiled machine, and they are nice and tidy. All right, and another benefit of an HOA is that if you have a neighbor that's a bit of a nuisance, or is listening to loud music, or has trash in their front yard, or anything like this, normally as living in a community that doesn't have an HOA, you'd have to go over and confront that neighbor. And that could be uncomfortable and awkward, and you want to keep a good rapport with your neighbors if at all possible, right? So if you have an issue with the behavior of one of your neighbors, you can always report that to the HOA, and the HOA will deal with that. And usually it's rather prompt. So this avoids you having to have that awkward confrontation and, sour relationships with the neighbors. When the HOA deals with it, your identity is kept anonymous. So the neighbors won't likely know that it's you. Hopefully they don't suspect that it's you, but you can all keep a smiley face while picking on each other. No, just kidding, just joking. But the thing here is that the HOA will be the one that confronts your annoying neighbor so that you don't have to. All right, and an HOA means less work for you, at least most of the time. So a lot of exterior maintenance and landscaping, sewer related issues, roofing are all the responsibility of HOAs in most cases. So this leaves you with less of a burden on maintaining certain aspects of your home that you normally would have to do if you owned a single family. So another benefit of having a homeowners association is that there's a bit less work for you as a homeowner. All right. So typically with HOAs, they are communities, and a lot of homes in these communities are condos, are townhomes, which are great for first-time buyers. So if that is you and you'd like to get into your first property, which I highly suggest you do, and I've got a video on why you should stop renting as soon as possible, which I'll link up here. But anyways, if you are ready to purchase your first home or otherwise ready to buy, sell, or invest in the state of Colorado, my information will be in the description as well as at the end of this video. I would love to help you along your real estate journey. Also, if you have found value in this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, and it would mean the world to me if you subscribe to my channel and hit that little notification bell so that you're alerted every time I come out with new content. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Daryl Vaughn, Colorado Realtor, and I'll see you in the next video.